everybody, it's Aidan here once again, and welcome back to rFactor2 as it's time for another review video. Now, last weekend it was the Indianapolis 500, and in conjunction with that event, Apex Modding, the team that brought us the epic and free GT3 mod for rFactor2, released a beta of the Dallara IR18, which is the first contemporary Indycar mod for the sim since ISI, who were the previous owners of rFactor2, gave us the Dallara DW12 as stock content. So the IR18 isn't a complete redesign like the DW12 was of the old IR05, but more of an evolution and upgrade. Dallara was called in to build an all-new spec chassis as opposed to teams using a mix of Dallara and Panos, pronunciation help, in a bid by series owner Randy Bernard to try and reduce costs. The chassis was built to improve on the safety of the old car, and ironically Dan Weldon was killed in the final race of the previous chassis at Las Vegas, which I've covered in my Storytime series. Now, if you're new to my mod reviews, what I like to do before I get into the driving part is I like to give some background and history of the car so you learn something new along the way. So if you're a subscriber to my channel because of Storytime, well, here comes a mini Storytime. So the chassis was named the DW12 as Weldon had been the test driver for the project. It included the partial enclosure of the bodywork around the rear wheels to prevent cars impacting the rear end at high speed and being launched into the catch fencing. Again, ironically, Dan Weldon and others in that horrendously violent Las Vegas wreck. The $349,000 negotiated price tag quickly increased, despite the project being named Iconic, which stood for Innovative, Competitive, Open Wheel, New Industry Relevant, and Cost Effective. Yeah, I swear these things that deliberately make no sense so they can spell out a word. Like the University of Wolverhampton's online framework, WOLF. Wolverhampton Online Learning Framework. Hey, it spells wolf like wolves, Wolverhampton, yeah! But back to the car. The DW12 was intended to be a core rolling chassis and safety cell, and then teams would bolt on the aero kits afterwards. These could be bought from anybody, and General Electric and Lockheed Martin, yes, the people that built the original stealth bomber, were just two of the companies invited by Iconic board member Tony Pennell to design them. Phase 1 of the testing of this car was done by Dan Weldon at Mid-Ohio, and the plan was to test at 3 circuits and 3 ovals, while testing on road courses done at Mid-Ohio, Barber and the Indy Formula 1 circuit, and oval testing was done at Iowa and Indianapolis. Scott Dixon for Honda and Chevrolet's Will Power did Phase 2 at Mid-Ohio before the oval test at Vegas was cancelled following Weldon's fatal accident, so they tested again at Phoenix and Sonoma, or Sears Point if you're of a Papyrus NASCAR sim background. The full field was then invited to Sebring to test in the March of 2012, with the first official race being at St. Petersburg, where Weldon had made his home. A lot of this ties into Dan Weldon, weirdly, doesn't it? With Penske winning. When the field arrived at Indy for the 500, there was a total of 136 lead changes in the first 3 500s for the car. In 2015, Honda and Chevrolet introduced their own aero kit specific for the teams running their engines. Will Power tested the Chevy kit at Austin in 2015, and Penske again won the first race for these manufacturer kits at St. Pete. Then in the March of 2017, the Indycar series announced that the DW12 would get an overhaul of the aero, with all cars to run identical aero kits starting in 2018. The safety cell remained the same, but the airbox and rear wheel guards were removed, the latter being as it showed that they were not doing the job they were designed for. The new aero kits also meant that the downforce now came more from ground effect rather than the wings, which was more closely related to the old kart cars of the 90s. In addition, this saved costs as teams no longer had to buy a different undertray specific for just ovals. This means the teams only had to buy one chassis and then bolt on the aero kits for road courses or ovals on an as-needed basis. And that's what we've got here, the Dallara the Dallara IR18. So this car is at version 1.0 now according to the rFactor2 packages folder, but I think that might be an oversight by Apex as there's no updates shown on the rFactor2 forums or on Steam. But this is still a work in progress, so we'll need to look beyond certain things such as physics, sounds and graphics here. As for the real car, we've got a 127 to 121.5 inch wheelbase. I've put those numbers the wrong way around, which I'm assuming teams select at the beginning of the year and then run with them, and please do correct me if I'm wrong here, because Indy it's one of those motorsports that I've got a passing familiarity with, but I'm not too clued up on the details. We've also got a 2.2 litre V6 twin-turbo engine made by Honda or Chevrolet that produces 550 to 700 horsepower depending on engine mode or turbo pressure settings. Fuel is interesting. E85. And that's a blend of 85% I need to say methanol, but ethanol, and 15% petrol. Or gasoline, if you insist. So paraphrasing from Wikipedia over, we need to now take a look at the model. Now the 3D model will get an update a little bit later on, as will the liveries, and as it stands, not all of them are done yet. So if you're sat there going, where's Alonso's car? Well, it's still being painted as it wasn't the correct shade of orange. So you're going to have to make do with Sage Karam's car, a car that actually made it into the 500. Karam's also an anagram of karma, don't you know? But anyway, back to the model. Like I say, this thing is going to get an overhaul at some point, and I can see just off the bat here that the where the nose cone joins to the actual safety cell, the line is off, but we can ignore that. It's a beta. I'm not going to get too into it, but just having a quick look around the car here. Like I say, this is Sage Karam's Wix Filters car. I thought Wix was a website or a designer or something like that, but I've got it currently set to short oval package, which I think near as makes no difference is the same as the road course package, but we'll have a look at that in a little bit more detail in a second. As you can see, if I get a little bit closer, the textures aren't of the highest quality just yet. We've got this thing running up the middle, which is to deflect pieces of bodywork or tyres that are coming flying towards the car. Indycar going with this weird aero screen thing next year, probably. Well, Formula 1 seems to insist with the halo. But it looks okay for now. So I'm going to press enter on this, and the whole thing's going to have some sort of seizure, so I'll probably cut it out. Yeah, I'm going to cut that bit out. I'm just going to zoom back in a little bit. I'm going to go to class packages. So you've got Honda 2019 and Honda Chevrolet. No, sorry, 2019 Chevrolet. You've got your engine again there. You've got your model. So road configuration, short oval. I'm assuming they're the same. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Then you've got your oval configuration. And then the Indy 500 config here. Select your wheelbase depending on where you're racing. And then you've got a realistic alternative method for your steering. So if I click on that, it says realistic for steering wheels which are capable of 630 plus degrees rotation. And this allows the ability to adjust steering ratios directly via the steering rack pinion. Then you've got the alternative method, which is for wheels that are 630 degrees or less. This adjusts steering lock of the car, but you're stuck with the 7-tooth steering pinion. We'll have a look at that in a bit more detail when we get onto track. And I think we'll test it in Indianapolis first, because that's the track I've already got selected. And we'll see how the car handles around there and see how fast we can get to go. So let's go and see what we can do. Alright then, so welcome to Indianapolis. I'm here in Sage Karam's car, the Wix number 24, apparently. And as you can see, I've got the oval spec aero fitted to the car, which I'm pretty sure is just there for show, really, because that looks like the old 2017 Formula 1 T-wing on the back, and a front wing that looks like it's not really doing anything aside from the end plates. But I thought I'd quickly take you through the setup screen and then go through about 10 laps around Indianapolis with a pit stop, just to see if I can get it stopped without doing the full Marcus Ericsson and all that stuff. And then we'll take it to a road course. I'm going to take it to Sebring, laser scan track, and see what the car handles like there. So, garage. I've got 25 laps of fuel. This is all default setup, by the way, so I'm not really going to fiddle with it. We've got our gears and wheel range and all that stuff. Front and rear wing, -2 and -5 degrees. Is that because of the ground effect? I don't know. If you do know more than me, please correct me in the comments, because I would like to learn more about how to set up these cars for ovals. Here's the suspension settings, again, all defaults. But the really interesting thing here is that Apex has done a baseline oval setup, and with that they've set the camber to 2 or +2 and -3 degrees of camber on the front, and then 2 degrees and -1.5 degrees on the rear. I think that's to aid stability on turning, so you're not scrubbing off too much speed by turning the wheel, or it's to help save on tyre life, or yes, as the case may be. I've also got the thing turned up, the engine turned up to maximum, so we can see how fast this thing will go in a straight line. But I'm not really here to talk about how to set up the car. I know you guys want to see what it's like out on track, so I'm gonna Put the clutch down. I've also got my bright red converses down in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. And here we are in the cockpit, and the textures look a bit iffy on the old cockpit view here, but it's a beta, so I'm not really too worried. I'm going to turn on the delta and the tyre temperature so you can see how that all works. I'm just going to give it a little bit of gas and then slowly bring the clutch up, because these cars are very easy to stall, because they're not really built for standing starts, these things. Well, I suppose, unless you're coming out the pit lane. And turn off the limiter. Immediately pull second gear to stop the wheels from spinning out, because as you can see, the tyres are stone cold at the minute. Take the proper line coming out the pit lane here. 150 miles an hour. Just look at the acceleration, how quickly we're accelerating. 200 miles an hour now. I've set the speedo 2 miles because that's what they'd use at Indy. And we'll just gradually build up speed. And we get onto the start finish straight here. If I let go of the steering wheel, it will pull to the left. I wasn't doing that. You can sort of see that the wheelie's pointing slightly to the right to try and keep it in a straight line. And then it's just flat out. Now, Europeans are quick to dismiss the Indy 500 as being terrible because it's just turning left. But I'm doing 230 miles an hour here in a straight line. Imagine other cars around and trying to get through each corner, setting consistent lap times without smacking a concrete wall. It's harder than it looks. But it'll be easy for Alonso, they said. McLaren's got the resources, they said. I mean, I couldn't believe when I read it. Carlin dropped the car off, and then it spent 2 days in a paint shop because it was the wrong colour orange. I don't care. Test. You lost 2 days of testing because of it. You idiots. But Alonso's so good. It's Indy. He was in their backyard, not the other way around. Tyres are now warmed up. If you try to push the car too soon on cold tyres, the back end will step out and you will die. That's how these cars operate. So 230 miles an hour down the back straight as we come into turn 3. Oh, I turned in too early. And then cook the inside front there. So we'll back out, let that tyre cool down. There we go. A second and climbing lost. So it's going to take me a lap or so to get back into a rhythm. You've got to hit your marks every single time. Next lap we should be back to speed. Try and get as close to the wall as I can. There we go, that was a better entry into that corner. 222 miles an hour in a corner. Trying to keep it in a straight line at these speeds as well. Rear tyres have heated up. The front left is just along for the ride, I think. There's a huge bump at turn 3 that really wants to spin you off. If you attempt to correct, you're off. But the tyres are behaving themselves. The DW12 really cooks the right front tyre. I don't know if that's because the physics haven't been updated in a while. we've had a couple of new tyre models since that came out. But this is definitely behaving itself. A lot easier to drive than the DW12, considering it's got less downforce. I've done nearly 7 laps in this thing already. I'm still having to really concentrate. If I go off the real road, which is the dynamic rubber line in rFactor2, dead. No question about it. So let's request a pit stop then. See if I can get this thing into the pit lane without killing myself because of the camera wanting to pull the car to the left. I've got to try and keep the car as straight as possible. If it deviates at any point, it will go. Lapping to within 100th of a second here. Alright, cruise ready. That's good enough speed through turn 3. And this is what I like to do, is to put the limiter on. Down to 60 miles an hour. That was absolutely perfect. I couldn't have done that better if I tried. So Aidan Millward is now on pit road. Let's send things over to Doc. Yeah, Aidan Millward is coming in. He's going to take tyres. He's going to take fuel. He's going to come out somewhere around the 2 Penske cars. Let's see how this pans out for him. And then he hands it over to the girl. And then she hands it over to somebody else. I do like the way they do that. That's pretty cool. Alright. Second stop. Oh, anti still kicked in. And that's something that the DW12 doesn't have. And that car's even easier to stall than this. It's a nightmare to get out of the garage sometimes. Or I'm just a rubbish driver. Either way. Let's get this thing back up to speed. I'm a bit too close to the wall. I'm offline, I'm offline, I'm offline, I'm offline. Just held it. It's a death sentence going off the real road. As JR Hildebrand can confirm. Last corner, stacked it. And you know who won the race because of that? Dan Weldon. I've done it again, haven't I? Came off the real road, really cooked that right front. But once the car is warmed up, it's glued. The onus then is on you to hit your marks every single time, and it's harder than I'm making it look. Really having to concentrate because, you know, just an inch here, an inch there, a mile an hour here, a mile an hour there, and you lose so much time. See, I've lost a tenth now already. Losing more time now. Oh, clip the wall again. So it'll be interesting to see what physics updates they do, because the oval feels fine to me. Oh, that was perfect. Car sliding around at the front. That rear left isn't heated up properly, and the car still wants to slip a tiny bit. I can feel it. Such as the force feedback detail. Oh, I almost put it in a wall. Alright then. Much easier to drive than the DW12. Much, much easier to drive than the DW12. They've got a very good baseline package here, Apex. I'm going to get busted for speeding, but oh well. Let's pull her in. And there we go. Sage Karam's car in Indy trim with the position indicator on the car as well, which is really cool. And the two holes that they have in the current spec Indycar to stop the thing from flipping over, as you may have seen at Indy this year. So let's take this car over to Sebring now. Do a few laps around the road course in road course spec, see how it handles there, because I haven't driven it in road course spec yet. So it really will be my first impressions. You can see the camber as well on the car, leaning to the left on that left hand side there to help pull the car inwards. It's a bit more pronounced on the front tyres. But yeah, because I've done so many laps before on ovals, this hasn't been my first impressions per se. So let's go over to Sebring and see what this thing handles like on a, in inverted commas, real track. So here we are then at Sebring at the 12-hour road course, the first ever laser scan track that rFactor2 had. And as we can see here, we've got the road course aero package installed. So it resembles an open wheel circuit racing car now. Let's see how it handles. It's not going to handle like a Formula 1 car, so we can stop the Formula 1 versus Indy comparisons right now. There is no point. They are two totally different series. Stop comparing them, please, for the sanity of humankind. Race. Alright, clutch is down. I'm in first gear. And away we go. Put it into second gear for traction purposes coming out of here. Because if it's anything like coming out of the Indianapolis pits, the car will want to kill me straight away. Oh, I just saved it. And that is the thing with this car. It happened at Indy the first time I ever tested. It's happened at a road course first time I've ever tested. And once that back end wants to go, there is no discussion. It's going. And that's what I love about this car. It doesn't grip like the other open wheel series that I don't want to get into the whole comparison thing about, as I've just ranted about. Tyres are also very cold, so let's build some heat before we even attempt to try and do anything Larry in this car. There it wants to go again. It's like this car has enough downforce to get you through corners like, I don't know, Blanchimont, or corners of that ilk, or even this one here. Like that. And even this one. But these sorts of corners, sort of mid to slow speed corners, you're dependent on the mechanical grip, and there isn't a lot of it. Which is pretty cool, I think. You're not totally reliant on it. So it involves you having to change your driving style slightly. And you've got to be so progressive with your throttle on the way out of corners as well, to try and stop that rear end from wanting to overtake you. Time lap then. If I can remember my way around this track. Oh, I think I was in the wrong gear there. Really struggling to get the heat into the tires here. Bit of late braking then. Let's see what that does. I think that's improved things slightly. bit too early for this corner. Oh, there it goes again. And that's what I was saying. Once the rear end decides it's going, it's going. And you've got a split second to save it, or it's gone. At least we've got heat in the tyres now. Sunset corner. Light turn one at Daytona, I'm never sure of how to take it. But now there's heat in the tyres, I can feel a bit more grip. That back end's still twitchy as hell. Oh wow, need to stuff that curb. Let's try again. There we go, I'll light up the rear tyres with a bit of temperature. There we go. That seems to have helped a little bit. Just try and stuff these curves because, as you just saw, they will kill you. So I'll probably do another time lap or so. Car bouncing all over the bumps. Must be a nightmare to set up cars for this place. But it's still a very enjoyable car. And I dare say it's got the potential to be the best open wheel mod for rFactor2. There's a lot the rears that time. Just the brake balancer. So currently my favourite open wheel mod for rFactor2 is the F1 2013 mod. And I think this has got the potential to be as good as, if not beat it. Got a bit more grip now at the rear. Now that that tyre's reached its purple temperature range. Right hand side tyre's just along for the ride by the looks of things. Get turned in. Probably need to turn the head physics down as well, because I think I'm getting a bit motion sick here. Stuff the curb. Got to be a little bit more progressive with the throttle as well, like you would have to be in a V8 supercar. There's a learning curve with these cars. But to dismiss them as being crap because they're not Formula 1 cars is misguided. So what if they're slower? So downforce helping through here. Not so much through here. Oh, just kept it going. Oh, I ran a bit wide. Oh, cut track. No. Alright, one more time lap then. You can probably hear the force feedback rattling through your headphones, TV screens, speakers, whatever you're listening to this through. That's how bumpy this place is. I think I've got the hang of this now. Famous last words. So you've got to be so slow through these corners, but then you can get on the power and it just goes like a rocket. Much better. And now for the final test, Sunset Bend. How fast will this thing be with a proper setup? 1 minute 46.8. I will take that as I come across the line to finish this demo run. Great mod, even if it is still only a beta. I've got high hopes for this car, but it's Apex, so it will be a fantastic mod when it is finally finished. Like I say, sounds need a bit of work, liveries need a bit of work, some liveries still need adding. I'm not fussed. I love watching the progression of mods over time, so this is pretty much it for this demonstration, and a little bit of a review as well. I think it was more of a demo than a review, but until next time, I've been Adam Ward. Have a great day wherever you live in the world. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more like this, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for 8,000 subscribers that clicked over on Saturday morning, which is mind-blowing to the nth degree. Also, thank you very much to my patrons on Patreon that have donated gear and made monetary contributions over the past God knows how long. And if you want to join the chat, then you can head over to my Discord server. My nose is so bunged up today. It's allergy season, but oh well. It's part of the fun of making YouTube videos, I guess. So that is pretty much it from me. Have a great day wherever you live in the world. I've already said that bit, so I've totally lost the plot, but thank you once again, and goodbye.